Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us on Business Incorporated. I'm Chimeze Obiwagu. Coming up on the program, South African President Jacob Zuma signs 8 bilateral agreements with Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Saudi Arabia unveils plans to reduce the kingdom's dependence on oil and transform it into a global investment power. Plus, Mitsubishi Motors admits using improper fuel testing methods since 1991. We'll begin with earnings report coming from BP. Now, the company has sunk to a $485 million loss for the 3 months to March on low oil prices, as low oil prices took their toll. The loss on the replacement cost measures compared with a $2.1 billion profit for the same period last year was lower than the $2.2 billion loss for the 3 months to December. The oil giant took a $917 million charge for the 2010 Gulf of Mexico oil spill, taking the total to $56.4 billion. On an underlying basis, which strips out one-off costs, BP reported an adjusted profit of $532 million despite expectations for a loss. However, this figure was sharply lower than the $2.58 billion profit for the same period last year. Its refining and trading division reported a profit of $1.8 billion, offsetting a $747 million loss in oil and gas production. And Mitsubishi Motors has admitted using improper fuel testing methods since 1991. Now, the admission follows last week's revelation that it had falsified fuel economy data for more than 600,000 vehicles sold in Japan. The Japanese company's vice president said he did not know how many more models were affected. Shares fell a further 10% in Tokyo today, bringing the slide since the scandal erupted to almost 50%. Meanwhile, at the Asian markets, Japanese shares fell for a second day as investors remain cautious ahead of a key Bank of Japan meeting later this week. Well, the central bank's past efforts to spur growth have disappointed investors, and there is expectation of more monetary easing from the meeting on Thursday. Japan's Nikkei 225 index fell 0.5% to close at 17,353.28. In China, the mainland benchmark Shanghai Composite closed 0.6%, while in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng ended up 0.5%. In South Korea, the Kospi Index finished the day up 0.3%, despite the country reporting its lowest quarter of economic growth in 9 months. In Australia, traders were equally cautious, and the ASX 200 index fell 0.3%. And from the Asian markets, we move to the European markets. Of course, there are a couple of earnings reports like the BP coming in, and of course, one of the largest world steel maker, ThyssenKrupp in Germany, is also making the rounds. Let's bring in Ulrich Bartz, DWTV Channels TV correspondent at the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, to tell us how these are playing out in the market. Good afternoon, Ulrich. Thank you for joining us. Now, the big story in the Frankfurt market today is ThyssenKrupp. They missed out on a huge deal in Australia. It's about building 12 submarines in the next years. Tell us more.
Yeah, they were supposed to get a contract for 12 submarines, but the problem is they weren't the only bidders. There was a Japanese consortium and a French state-owned company that was also in the race for this contract, which is worth about 35 billion euros. That's about 39 billion US dollars, and it would have provided work for thousands of people, some here in Europe, many more in Australia, where all the companies concerned were promising to build the submarines, mainly at the docks there. Now, ThyssenKrupp missed out on this, and the French company DCNS, a state-owned company, got the contract, and it will start building in a couple of years. And hold on to this fact, the first submarine will be delivered ready in the year 2030. So this is a long-term thing, but still it's a short-term pain for the investors here. ThyssenKrupp share clearly going down on a day which started off well here in Frankfurt, but now is petering out a little. But ThyssenKrupp still stands out with this loss for the day.
Oh, Orich, that's not just for the investors, but of course the company as well, they must be very disappointed. Now, lower gas and oil prices are being felt throughout that industry. Today, BP released first quarter results. How is the market reacting?
The market looked all that good for BP at first glance, but the market was expecting a bigger hit, a more negative story, and so BP shares are actually going up today. But still, when you look at the long-term performance of BP, of course, it's feeling this oil and gas decline in the prices, and investors there are not very happy at the moment either.
Now let's look at the earnings coming in. Apple is expected to report tonight after close on Wall Street, and there are plenty of other company reports that have come out or are being expected. How is that influencing the market?
Yeah, the market was up initially on good company reports. Bayer here, for example, here in Germany, the pharmaceutical company, also agrochemicals. It turned out good results, but that wasn't enough to prop up the market in any sort of durable way. And Apple, of course, that's the bone of contention now. That's what everyone is looking for, and that will surely be the topic tomorrow in the market here. Analysts who have stated beforehand their expectations see that Apple's sales and profits will be going down. They still say that Apple is an attractive share, even at the profit level so far. When you compare the profits that they do make, which are still quite tremendous, in comparison to the share price, it's still being seen as a value. But wait and see what Apple reports. And of course, also people always wait for the next blockbuster product. When you see comments, people are slowly stopping believing in that next iPhone or that next tablet coming. So this will play a role too in how the numbers are judged when they are out.
Well, let's see how those results will turn out to be. Thank you very much, Orich. Thank you for your time. Orich Bat, DWTV, Channels TV correspondent, reporting there from the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. Our South Africa signs economic agreement with Iran. Details of that and more after this break.